Coming up next on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell, my co-hosts Ron Richards and Win2 Dow. We've got a lot to talk about today. This show goes in all sorts of different directions, sometimes unexpectedly. Some of the best episodes do that. We've got Surface Duo finally getting its Android 11 update. Win dives deep into Jetpack Compose and shows what you can do with a very limited amount of time using that tool if you're a developer. Really cool stuff. Ron reviews the NexiGo Air T2 wireless earbuds. YouTube Music is finally getting support or giving support to supervised child accounts through Family Link. Plus, your feedback, your email, and a whole lot more next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by BetterHelp. Find their awesome new mental health podcast, Getting Better, Stories of Mental Health, on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or Spotify. Hello and welcome to All About Android, episode 562, recorded on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. Your weekly source for latest news, hardware, apps, and developer-y stuff, like we're going to talk about tonight. For the Android faithful, I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Win2 Dow.
Yes. Right. How's it going, y'all? It's good to have us back in the saddle. Last week was a little bit different.
Happy belated birthday, Win.
Yes, indeed. Happy birthday. It's good to have you back. And this is a week where we actually have a lot of news, but we also have some developer stuff to dive into, which I'm super excited about. That's going to be coming up at the top. We were talking before the show, though, and realizing before we even get to the news, we've got some stuff to talk about. Actually, I think Ron has something special, and I'm really curious to know because I know nothing other than he has something. What do you have?
I have an exciting blast from the past for you, Jason. So for those longtime watchers of the show know that I used to live in San Francisco, right? I used to drive up and do the show live with you in the studio in Petaluma. It was awesome. And then in 2016, I moved back to New York. And when I moved back to New York, I took all my stuff from my apartment in the Lower Haight and I put it in storage, and I moved to New York to a small one-bedroom apartment with my wife and kept that stuff in storage. And then I moved to Long Island into a house. And then a year later, I finally emptied that storage unit, and it's all in the basement now. And I've slowly been going through boxes, and I opened a box this weekend, and the Android treasures that I unearthed.
No way.
So turn back the clock to maybe in the range of 2012 to 2015, right?
Ooh, okay.
First,
this is old
I found this little guy, which, if you might remember, as the
Nexus S, right?
Nexus S, right? And just to give comparison, here's the Nexus S compared to my Nexus 6. Right.
Wow.
Which is in terms of just size, it is like, I feel like a giant holding this tiny little phone.
Isn't that weird? And at that time, I mean, obviously we only compare to what we know in that moment, but at that, and you know, before that era of smartphones, we had feature phones that were like little candy bar things, and they were still much smaller than the phones that we use today, but that felt normal then. It does not feel normal now.
So this has got the weird little plastic bump at the bottom.
Yeah.
Remember, like that you can kind of cradle it, or whatever. So there it is. And then in the same box, I found my Nexus 4.
Ooh.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
With a little bit of shattering in the back from the glass.
That's right.
From overuse. Also, remember how it had like the rubberized outside of it?
I forgot about the rubberized outside.
It was like
I always remember the sparkly back, but
Yeah,
right. It was
it's pretty money.
the rubberized shell around it, which after 7 years of being in a box is like tacky now. It's like sticky.
oh no, not I hate it when that happens.
Not great. So there's the Nexus 4, right? And then I also found my Nexus 5 that I shattered.
Okay,
Remember,
That's my favorite. Oh, I miss my Nexus 5.
My Jawbreaker
beautiful.
sticker. And so there's my Nexus 5. And then in that same box, I found the Nexus 5. I got to replace the one that I shattered. Put the same sticker.
Also with
the
a
same
Jawbreaker
spot.
sticker on it. Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This also the rubbery back, not as tacky as the Nexus 4, but a little bit of stick. A little bit of sticky.
Okay. Give it a couple of years. I'm sure it'll get stickier, probably.
And then the last gem I found was this one, Jason, which I know you're going to love, but the old LG Guacher.
Oh, the Guacher.
Look how thick that monster swatch is. Look how thick that is.
That is hideous.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. So
hey, look, we had to start somewhere, right?
Yep. So it was a lovely box of Android around 2013, 2014.
Kidding.
I want to power them all up, but I don't have these cables. Like I need to find the USB micro cables somewhere in another box. But I'm going to try to power them all up and try to see if they're still running, see what apps I can find. So I've got a little fun time capsule adventure ahead of me. And I'm also going to I know somewhere in other boxes there's my Nextbit Robin. Like I'm going to try to get all my old phones all together and have a nice little exhibit. So that's the
plan. Yeah. That's kind of what I have in my office back at the Twit studio. I have a little section of this bookcase that is like my little Android kind of display
collection.
Yeah,
there's a decent amount of stuff.
And you got the Q ball in there and everything.
The Nexus Q,
we have one of those too.
Yeah.
Oh,
do you have your Nexus Q plugged in and running so it glows all the time? Because unfortunately I do.
No.
I should not have done that.
We used to have it on the shelf just so people asked what it was. I think my husband powered it up once. And that was it. But I actually have my box. I have a little crate box of all of our collected phones over the years, and a lot of them are double. We have two actually Nexus S's because my husband broke one once during brunch, and immediately we were going to go up to the mountains that afternoon. So instead of hanging out, we just immediately ran to the mall so he'd get a new one.
Gotta have one for the trip.
No, I just I think we were very much just smartphone addicted by that point. So now he's oh god, I can't get around to my phone. So that was 2 hours of us sitting in the car on a summer day with my mother-in-law and her brother and my sister, waiting for my husband to get a new phone because
fun times.
Because it's important. It's so important.
It sounds ridiculous when I say it now, but.
Most things sound silly when you say it.
I'm sorry, honey.
Years later.
It sounds as ridiculous as some of those phones and the standards around those phones back then look ridiculous now, right? We look at some of the choices that, and also when you power those up, Ron, it's always really interesting to take those old devices and actually power them up. And then it's you get flashbacks of oh yeah, that's right. The OS did used to look like this. And why are those gray bars there? That looks so bad. I don't know. You forget about these things until they're right in front of you. Yep. So that's great. I love it.
Well, I thought you'd appreciate that, a little blast from the past. So whenever I get the opportunity to do that, and you can thank me for being a hoarder and keeping everything. So there it is.
What else you can do with it?
Thank you.
I found a Christmas card from my wife years before we were even dating, where she said, "Don't you want to come back home?" Because she was trying to get me home even back then. But of course, she didn't date the card, so we don't know what year it was from. But still, it's nice little blast from the past.
Love it. Thank you. I can't wait to see more when you find the Nextbit Robin and the next era, the other box. Yeah, definitely share it.
I would like to find the earlier. I got it because I know I had the Galaxy Nexus, and I know what happened. And this is killing me, and I'm gonna have to buy. I know what happened to my G1. My Nexus G1, I lent to a developer at Revision 3 when I worked there to test on, and then I quit, and I never got the device back. And then, so somewhere in a box somewhere is my old G1, which is gone. So I'm going to need to buy one off eBay to complete the collection. But I know I had a Galaxy Nexus, and then the Nexus S, and then also I had a Nexus 1. So those are somewhere. So I might have the full run, but
Your display can literally be this is your life on Android.
What I want to figure out is I want to figure out my start date and end date. I wish I kept track of that. I started using the phone on this date and stopped using it on that date, just to give a sense of how long the phone lasts and how much usage I got of it and stuff like that. It's it's the same. It's the same thing. I kick myself, Jason, when everybody gets nostalgic about posting ticket stubs or pictures from old concerts they went to. I'm if I could go back in time to when I was 15 and be get a notebook and write down every band you saw on the date that you saw it, because because 20 years later you'd want to relive all that stuff, and I didn't do it, and it's just a bummer. So anyway,
Yeah. It's also just the past, and
It's the
like on
past
one
and
hand it's
nostalgia.
nostalgic, and like I'm the same kind of person, right? Like I really get attached to nostalgic things in my past, but also like what was it, however many months ago when I had that hard drive failure and I lost a lot of what I felt was pretty important data. That really taught me something about like, but like, why am I holding on to this? Like, does it really matter? Like, I think the quality of my life is okay, even though I don't have that anymore. And so before we jump into the news real quick, Burke, I don't know if you have your finger on the button, but we might as well just push it and bring in some breaking news. Dun, dun, dun. It's not the most exciting breaking news in the world, but it did happen shortly before the show, so we'll go ahead and include it. Samsung has announced its Unpacked event for 2022 is actually going to take place on February 9th. That is a Wednesday. Likely to find out about the Galaxy S22. I think there was even some like hinting that about the Note of some sort, which we know through leaks. The S22 Ultra is going to have the S Pen embedded in it as if it were a Note. So should be interesting. So that's Wednesday, February 9th. And we'll certainly be doing live coverage of it. If either or both of you would like to join, you're welcome. It's also 7 a.m. Pacific, so it's early, so keep that in mind.
I will not. I believe it's on the 9th. Okay, so I'm out that week. I'm actually going to be at Disneyland, so I won't be able to do it that morning.
Right on. Congrats.
But I do like the fact that Samsung appears to have gotten off our publicity schedule and doing an event on a Wednesday, thus giving us a week later to cover it. Samsung, you need to adjust your schedule, do these events on Tuesday mornings so we can talk about it later that day. Yeah. Google figured it out. Why can't you? So.
Yeah, totally. Get on the train, Samsung. What are you doing? Anywho, so that happened right before showtime. But there's plenty more to talk about in the news block, so let's do that right now.
Microsoft, bless your heart. Thank you.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. Bless your little heart, Microsoft. See, this is why people don't trust Microsoft for mobile things, because this happens. If you had the Surface Duo, that we talked about not too long ago on the show, that, it came out. Well, at this point, it came out a year and 3 months ago, and there were multiple times that Microsoft promised that it was going to get the next version of Android. It was going to get an actual major update to the device, and they kept promising, and it never happened. Well, if you're one of those patient Microsoft Surface Duo owners / fans / hangers-on, you're finally getting your wish. 1 year and 3 months later, you're finally getting your update to Android 11, and I don't know. It's just kind of disappointing, right? Like if Microsoft was coming out and saying, "Hey, we've got this, new mobile effort. Sure, it's not our OS. We're going to use Android, but we're really excited about this new form factor, this new device." You get people excited, and then you don't support it, and that's like there's no other way to look at this other than that. You launched the device, and then you didn't support it. And sure, there were reasons along the way. I'm sure they could list off the reasons why, but as an owner of a device, I don't own this device, but as a potential owner of the device, those of you who have this device, like I know if I had bought this device, I'd be peeved. I would not be happy about that. But hey, it finally happened. I don't know. How do you guys feel about this?
How much does the Surface Duo retail for again, by the way?
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was an inexpensive phone. What did it?
It was $1,000. It was $1,000. It was $1,000.
Yeah, price at launch. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, so $1,000.
Oh no, I'm sorry. The Surface Duo 2 is $1,500.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And
even more so.
And the Surface Duo itself was you can get a refurbished one for $400, but yeah. So
I mean, the initial one, I'm trying to find what it launched at. I mean, it ultimately, okay. So it launched at $1,400.
Yeah.
It was about $1,400 at launch.
Yeah, so more than $1,000. Yeah. So
yeah.
But hey, you can get one. You can get one now for $400 on Amazon. So
if you really want to do that. So,
oh, this is so frustrating. I feel like, especially like the last 10 years of Android development, you always hear about like fragmentation and why can't we get updates to our devices? And to some extent, like there was stuff that Google could do to help. So now there's like Project Trouble, but it's always going to be stuff like this that is always going to stick in people's minds about, we actually call it now the F word. I don't like saying it because I feel like I heard it the first 3 or 4 years of my Android life, like constantly, but
right.
This crap. Yeah, it's disappointing. And I mean, it's Microsoft. I don't want to say anything mean about Microsoft, but I don't know. It just, yeah, if you're going to get into Android, support the dang device. I don't know. But hey, they might get 12L one day. Someday.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good point, right? Like maybe this was like the slap across the face, be like, all right, or the pie in the face, to put it a different way. Microsoft gave itself the pie in the face and said, all right, you had to wait a year and 3 months for this official update, but we have plans, and apparently, according to Windows Central, Microsoft says they do have plans to bring 12L to both the versions of the Surface Duos. Now the question is, of course, can you deliver on that plan, and when? I think the when is, I assume that Microsoft's going to deliver on that. Maybe that's maybe that's faulty thinking, but I assume that they will. It's just when. Is it going to be another year and 3 months? Because then still you're kind of failing. You're dropping the ball. Do it sooner. I don't know.
And do you think that they'll likely just skip 12 and go right to 12L? Like,
I think that's.
Are they trying to, like, they're just doing this 11 just to catch up because they know 12L is coming, right? Like, I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, it sounds like they're doing 11 because they made the promise and they
had to, yeah.
They had to get there. But I totally understand them skipping 12 and going direct to 12L, considering 12L is all about the larger form factor, devices, the multiple screen devices and everything. Yeah, it's the point. Exactly. So. Right. So yeah, so cross your fingers for that. Let's just hope we're not waiting another year.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
Just seems like not a great way, especially, if everyone's, it seems like, now we keep talking about foldables because now foldables are a thing. And I don't think we really have this issue when we talk about, like the flips, the folds, and the other kind of foldable devices that we got coming. And I suppose, like with Microsoft, something that they always have is market share and name recognition. So it feels like they're always going to be around and they can kind of get by with this kind of behavior-ish. But it's kind of lame, dude. Kind of lame.
Yeah. Yeah.
But isn't that, if you look at Microsoft in a dictionary, doesn't it, like an alternate definition is lame, right? Like, isn't that Microsoft?
I wasn't going to say it, but
Ouch.
It's true though. It's true, right? When was the last time? I mean, like we had a little glimmer of Microsoft being cool a couple of years ago when they had the Android Garage and they were doing those cool kind of apps that like were these weird oddities that came out. But when was the last time we had any of those that we talked about?
Yeah. Well, that's true. There was that time period where Microsoft was getting a lot of thumbs up from the Android community based on what they were doing from software. Mm-hmm. I think, there was the hope that would transition over into their hardware. I think Microsoft in general has gotten a lot cooler since Satya Nadella has come on board. Things have really improved a lot with the company, and I think their cachet has definitely improved. It's just their Android track record is still very iffy, and this really makes that pretty obvious. Yeah. So this is coming up here next in the news block, you're going to talk a little bit about Jetpack Compose, and I don't know how do we set this up, because this isn't necessarily news that happened within the last week.
No,
or did this stuff happen?
I'm kind of like, no, this is old news. This is kind of me making up for, like, so the last time we talked about this, I think I talked about Compose for the year-end show, and I was just a guest then. And I think that I wanted to, it's kind of hard when you talk about dev stuff. I really try hard not to make people like drool and their eyes roll back in their head, falling asleep when I talk about dev stuff. And so I think I didn't do a great job, especially with visuals. And I think because I was just a guest, I wasn't like, Burke, roll that crispy footage in that link that I kind of show you, because it is a hard thing to see. But I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit more, because this is going to be kind of an ongoing thing with Android and why y'all should be excited. And I apologize again for podcast listeners, because again, this is very hard to communicate with just voice, but I kind of wanted to go kind of maybe like rewind, like go back to like December 2021 when I was talking about Compose, and kind of like maybe give more visual examples and kind of talk about some stuff that is worth getting excited for just from a dev perspective, and to give it a proper treatment. So I mentioned that Jetpack Compose is just kind of easier to read and more natural. And so that's kind of the thing. If you have any experience with like web development at all, you might be familiar with HTML, like the markup language, and you might be familiar with like things like CSS and JavaScript that build on top of that. And traditionally, Android UI has looked like that. Compose is a bit different. It's a bit more easier to read and natural kind of languagey. And that was like that tweet actually that just flashed on the screen. So this, I mean, it's a little bit hard again if you're not a dev, but if you compare the left to the right, this is kind of like things are getting skinnier. This is kind of like a small like example, so it's hard to see. But the thing, a lot of things that kind of emphasized with more modern development across any platform is just more readability. It's getting to be like less magic, less kind of like weird, that kind of whole Greek to me kind of feel, and kind of becoming more easier to read, more naturally language, and that's what kind of Compose and Kotlin brings us. But anyway, the really important stuff for us as consumers is the cool crap that people do. I wanted to say a different word there that would have sounded cooler. But basically, back in May last year, the Android team, or Google rather, put out this Android Dev Challenge where it was like a 4-week thing. And devs had 1 week to complete a number of challenges. So like the first week was, hey, make us a pet adoption app in a week. And the second week was make us a timer in a week, and kind of focusing on like different parts of Jetpack Compose. And I kind of wanted to highlight some of that just because I think that if you kind of think about the idea of someone writing a really cool app in a week and then seeing what people came up with using this new toolkit, it's pretty awesome. So there's quite a few things. I think one of them that was really awesome was the weather app. So so 1 week for everything. And one of the winners for visual beauty was a app called Weather Scene by Chris Horner. And I think if we like one of them, so this gentleman, Chris Horner, actually had another weather app that he was working on, but he was able to kind of rewrite it in a week in Jetpack Compose. And are we able to get like, there's like a screenshot.
And that's start to finish, like from the ground up.
Start to finish, right? Yeah, I actually looked at the code, and like his first commit was like the start of the week. His last commit was like the end of the week. And I think there's actually a picture of it somewhere, maybe in the GitHub or something at the bottom.
Yeah, if you go to the GitHub and then scroll down, there's the screenshots area. Is that what you're talking about? Kind of shows off the
exactly.
app a little bit.
Yeah, go all the way down. Oh, wait.
No, wrong thing. So, Burke, if you look on the collection of links on line 17, you'll see the weather app Visual Beauty winner by Chris Homer, and there's a GitHub link.
Yeah, Chris. Oh, sorry, Chris Horner. My bad.
Horner. Sorry.
Horner. My bad.
There we go. And scroll down, then you'll see.
Yeah, scroll all the way down, and so this was done in a week.
That's amazing.
That's amazing, right? So there's like beautiful graphical.
That makes me feel like a failure.
I mean, but kind of also myself, but also it should give you kind of hope that you can do these kind of beautiful things. And just to kind of visually, there's like a really cool banner with like a really wonderful graphical element. There's even like temperature graphs that, that show like the curves and everything, and these wonderful tables. And just all this data, like really nice topography and like all these different elements. And that was done in a week, which is kind of mind blowing to me. And this was like a fully functioning app, I believe. And then if you want like a super extreme example, the third week was a speed challenge. Or actually I think that was the fourth week was a speed challenge. So basically write us the coolest app you can in as fast as you can. I think they did it in like 3 different time zones. And so I think the winner of our time zone was WeTrade by Jorge Baños, and he wrote this app in 2 hours and 43 minutes. And I mean, look at this.
How do you do that? That is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and this to be fair, like maybe if you were super, super, super good with like, I'm very well versed in like the old view system, you could do this maybe into, I actually am sweating thinking about doing it the old way in the old toolkit in 2 hours. But so this is basically the idea is like, if you take a look at something like that, and it's a really professional looking trading app, it's well styled, it's beautiful. Everything is spaced out well. There's trending lines of different colors. Like everything looks very professional and like, it doesn't look like a cookie cutter app. Like I think that was one thing that when material design first came out, everything looked the same. This looks like, just some company and like has some branding. It looks like a unique, well-designed, well-implemented thing. And it was done in 2 hours and 43 minutes. So I think that's just just to get people more excited. And I know like it's easy for me to be excited because it's like my day to day, but I think that sometimes when you see the lag between, hey, like we came out with Material U and it's going to be awesome, and you don't see your favorite apps pick it up very quickly. A lot of it is kind of the difficulty with doing fancy things with, I wouldn't say like stone tools, but like maybe like think of it as a broom versus a vacuum cleaner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
right.
it's there's still work to be done. You still have to do a lot of stuff by yourself, but the speed with which you can do things and the efficiency with which you can do things is totally at a different level. So I just wanted to showcase that. Actually,
could I ask you a question before we move on this markets app? What was it called?
WeTrade. Yeah,
the WeTrade.
Yeah.
So okay. So the app itself is developed using Jetpack Compose very quickly. Right. How much preparation is done prior? Like, was part of the challenge you can't think of, like you can't do any like mental planning about this? Because I imagine you as a developer, you have to have an idea of like the tree, like the direction that a user goes into
but
before you ever get into tools and play around with these things. How much does that come into play in something like that?
But also like the API and the database schema and like all this sort of stuff. Like, like the app itself is. The front end is actually functional, and then what happens inside the app and how it manages data. But then are there any services it's connecting to, right? So
absolutely, No, that's a great question. I feel like 2 hours and 43 minutes is just straight up coding. I think that's fair to say. Okay. And then like and you're 100% correct that like when we do a feature, there's quite a bit of like I won't say manpower. That's not like person power put into design and figuring out interactions, figuring out like the flow of something, figuring out all the different use cases. And then like, as Ron mentioned, like all the kind of like ancillary, like kind of things like what services do I need? And even like designers just generating images. I mean, a lot of stuff can be like kind of hand drawn in Android for lack of a better way of phrasing it. But sometimes we just need someone to draw something pretty and we stick it in the app. And so that also takes time. So I think it's fair to say that 2 hours and 43 minutes wasn't like from conception in his brain to, pushing it out, but that like pushing it out to the store or to GitHub or whatever, but that the actual coding time was 2 hours and 43 minutes, which is still freaking amazing.
Bonkers. Yeah.
And so, but that's actually a good point because maybe this also, because a lot of times when we are building apps, and I've mentioned this before, a lot of the compromises that we have to make and a lot of the decisions we have to make are based on time, when we hope to release something, when we have to release something, and how much resourcing that we have in terms of designers and devs. And we cut out stuff. Like I've very many times said, hey, I'd like to do a cool animation here. And it's like, well, that's kind of at the bottom of the list that gets cut out really easily. Or, hey, this visually, we could do something really cool with the typography here. Or maybe we could kind of add in this kind of like little bit of flair, and that gets cut out really easily. Or, we think we're going to do a version 2, and because life is life, we don't get around to it. And so the idea of like more productivity on this end and being able to kind of iterate really quickly is really cool. I mean, to get a little bit super, super technical with it, like with Compose in certain situations, you can actually change a value in code and then have it like immediately be reflected in the app. Like, kind of live editing it as you go. And that's pretty amazing. Like if you can imagine just sitting side by side, a designer and a developer, and rather than me working the whole day, sending you a build and you saying, okay, maybe checking off 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things that don't look right, you can sit with me and I can just say, okay, I'll tweak this. How does that look? I'll tweak this and how does it look? So there's a lot of really cool like ease of communication, ease of collaboration that goes along with it as well. So this is just really exciting. And hopefully, people will have more time and more capability to do cool things. And maybe we'll end up making apps that look as cool as the ones you see at Google I/O when Android or when Google releases a new thing for Android. So I kind of wanted to circle back around to that.
Love it.
And big companies are using this now. I'm going to call it he's a friend of mine, Alex Lockwood. He actually works at Lyft. He used to work at Google and now he works as Lyft. And yeah, if we pull up like the one tweet that he did. So Alex is awesome. He's one of my Android heroes. If I can go off on a tangent, my very first paid Android gig ever was a nightmare. I was actually at an Android conference, but stuck in the hotel room. My husband was speaking and I was in the hotel room, just working, not having fun. And we had a dev actually walk out on us because he said, "I'm sorry, y'all. I've been working in startup for like X years. I know when my mental health is more important. So bye." And he just left right before, and we were releasing like the end of that week. So I was there by myself trying to fix bugs all night. And the point of the story was like, actually Alex Lockwood, who is like is a prolific blogger and a prolific kind of experimenter.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So he works at Lyft now, and he wrote this great tweet, which I think is a good example of things. So he's writing the design system for Lyft, which is basically a design system is kind of a library, a kind of like, how do we as a brand and as an app, do this button? How do we do loading screens? How do we do forms? How do we do buttons? And kind of is just the language design-wise that you write an app in. And so Alex did this, and I think the tweet was like, let me see, what was the tweet? It was like, I've been working 2.5 years on the design system for Lyft, and he's really proud. But then he spent less than a day rewriting most of the common components Compose, and he's using a fraction of the code. And he's now like, what do I do now? Because he just so quick.
I have all this spare time now. What am I going to do with it?
Now. What do I do? Yeah. So
how do I work?
Yeah. And if you're interested in like graphical stuff, Alex Lockwood is a great person to follow. He does amazing experiments visually. He's like a big Figma person too. He's a really cool guy. He's super great on both like the super technical stuff and the UI stuff. But cool. This is Lyft, right? This is a major company that's investing time and getting a lot of benefit from Compose. So that's your dev spiel for the week. Love Compose. Hopefully things cooler and better things will come out better. And yeah, that's some of Alex's experiments with animation in Compose. Like Compose, there's still a lot of math and work, just like kind of, again, like going back to like the analogy of the broom and the vacuum. You still got to push that vacuum around, but there's a lot that's easier with Compose and faster to do. So hopefully, I know the first thing that I want to do is just stick a bunch of this cool stuff in there, and hopefully now I'll have time to do it. But yeah, amazing. I just wanted to kind of touch back and kind of more visually explain why this is so cool instead of just being like, hey, the dev is ranting about weird technical stuff. But yeah. Well,
and it also helps to have the examples to look at, right? Because like I, as a user, I can really connect with what I see and from a usability standpoint, and then to consider the speed at which these things were created. Like, as a user and a non-developer, I think of development as this like complex, like Rubik's Cube thing that's like impossible for anyone to solve quickly. Like I don't even know where to begin, but yet people are making these incredible apps in a couple of hours as a challenge because the tools enable them to do it that quickly. And that's just a testament to how far we've come with these tools, right?
Absolutely.
Not just Android, just in general, all of these development tools have improved so much over the years, and in Android as well. So that's amazing. I love it. Really cool stuff. Cool. Thank you for highlighting that. We'll have more of this going forward with you, Wen, because I love the knowledge that you bring in general, but also from the developer perspective, it's just really cool stuff. It's stuff that like Ron and I we don't live and breathe development the way you do.
I wish I did more. I'm so I'm so thankful for developers like yourself that I know and that you can tap into and get that information. It's totally one of those things where I wish I could. There was a moment in time where I could have gone down that path and I chose a different path. And not that I have any regrets, but I am very respectful of what wizards like you can do with all this sort of stuff.
And jealous. You guys are like way too sweet. I think that's an interesting thing though, and I just like kind of like people have different preferences, different things that kind of inspire them. It's really interesting. With Android, with a lot of other development, especially kind of user facing development, there's kind of like the UI side, the UX side, which is where I love and I live. And then there's the kind of architecture inside. It's just like a car, there's like the outside of the car, like the body of the car, like the way that the steering wheel and like the dash is set up, and like whether you got a flappy paddle versus like a transmission. And then there's like the engine, right? Like whether you have a 6 or 8 cylinder and all the other car terms that I don't actually know, because this is where my car knowledge stops. And so some people, specialize on the engine part. Some people are really great at like kind of like, body work and like kind of like interior design. That's kind of me. And my husband's a total architecture person. And what I think is interesting, that a lot of people don't have traditionally kind of hated Android UI development because it is difficult. It takes time. It can be a drag. And I think this is inspiring people to kind of look at it again. I've seen anecdotally quite a few people say, hey, like this is actually like a lot easier now. So, I mean, especially if you, and I've said this before, if you are looking to get into mobile development, dive into this and use the new stuff right away. It is what it is increasingly what one would hope development would be, where you get to focus on making cool things and not on all the nitty gritty of how the heck you can do the whole thing, which is really what we hope for. And as like we go forward and people are making apps, hopefully they'll make better, more stable, more reliable, more delightful apps using tools like this as we kind of go further along with this 10, 12 years of like mobile space. So anyway.
Yeah, cool. Indeed. Love it. Cool. Thank you, Wen. We've got a lot more coming up here, but first let's take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode of All About Android, and that is BetterHelp. BetterHelp is all about mental health, right? And it's really important. I mean, as collectively, we've all experienced a really hard couple of years. Last couple of years have not been easy for anyone, right? Whether we've been directly affected by COVID, let's say, or just kind of considering the impacts of it on our careers, on our lives, whether, or the fear that's associated with everything in the last couple of years in employment. I mean, there's just so many reasons why we need to do what we can to take care of our mental health. And that's what BetterHelp is all about. We talk about BetterHelp a lot on the show, on the network, and now they're actually releasing a new podcast called Getting Better: Stories of Mental Health. Actually, season 1 just dropped, episodes featuring interviews with people notable people, NBA Hall of Famer Chris Bosh, who actually talking about anxiety, pop star Meghan Trainor, who's actually talking about motherhood and panic attacks, Wilmer Valderrama on immigrating to a new country, and a whole lot more. I mean, just all sorts of, and the thing about these interviews is like, when you listen to them, yes, you're listening to someone telling their story and sharing insights about, their own mental health, but there's so many little pieces that we can all connect to from our lives to theirs. And so even if, that person's experience doesn't perfectly match your own, there's still human emotion and everything tied up in there that we can all connect to. So it becomes really informative and really engaging from that perspective. Mental health is something we should all be focusing on, like I said, just as much as we focus on our physical health. It's kind of a mind shift to start thinking about your mental health the way you think about, taking care of your body and your physical health. So join BetterHelp as they continue to fight to destigmatize actually mental health and show people that everyone struggles with something. So we need to talk about it. That's the best way to kind of remove the pressure, take the weight out of the backpack, so to speak. You can do your part to help by listening and sharing your favorite episode of that podcast and spreading the word that it's okay to not be okay. That's it. Check it out for yourself. Find their awesome new mental health podcast, Getting Better: Stories of Mental Health. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes, on Spotify. Just look for it where you find your podcasts. And we thank BetterHelp for their support and for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. I think it's a really, really good thing for all of us to look into. All right. Coming up now, we've got some hardware news to talk about. Ron, not only did you have a box at the beginning of the show, but you've got a box in the hardware section, but it's a different kind of box.
It's my new thing. I'm trying to bring a box to every section. Before we get started, Jason, I acknowledge you're sticking with the facial hair. Good for you. For our video watchers who can continue Jason's mustache and goatee adventure that's been going on since November. I'm glad you're sticking with it. So I just noticed that as you were doing that lovely ad read, I was like, oh wow, he's it's coming in nice. We got some colors going on there. We got some gray, some white. It's pretty cool.
This is how I realize I'm in my mid 40s. Are these little patches of gray? I don't really have gray anywhere else, but I see it there.
Every now and then I get one really long gray and one of those sideburns, and I'm just like, anyway,
you
getting old. All right. Well, speaking of getting old, I have a piece of hardware in my life that is getting old, and those are my my Pixel earbuds. If you remember, long-term watchers of the show know that I don't like things in my ears. So I don't like in-ear headphones. And despite Burke trying to sell me various types of in-ear headphones and things to use on the show, I prefer earbuds. I like a simple, nice earbud that just goes right in my ear, fits perfectly, and nothing goes inside my ear. Because I once had an earbud get stuck inside my ear on a plane, and it was awful, and so never again. When it was
that sounds awful.
I was at a conference in Park City, Utah, and the flight from Park City, Utah back to New York, right after takeoff, I took the earphone out and the little plastic thing stayed in and the earphone came out, and a 5-hour flight. I'm trying to get this thing out of my ear. I couldn't do it. It was awful. So never again.
God. Oh, dude.
Never again.
No, I understand now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, but my Pixel Buds are getting tired. I mean, I don't know. When did the first Pixel Buds come out? Those came out ages ago, right? Let's see when those are.
What was that? Was that 2017? Yeah, 2017, 2018, somewhere around
2018, somewhere around there. Yeah, I think so.
Google Pixel Buds. So The Verge reviewed the Google Pixel Buds in 2017.
Yeah, so I've had those. I've had those since 18, 19, 21. So 4 years, 4+ years I've been using those. Yeah. So I was like, listen, it's time to get a new pair. So I went out and I was searching for a new pair of Bluetooth wireless earbuds. And which is, by the way, whittling the search down and filtering out all the in-ear headphones was nearly impossible. But I was surprised to find out that there's a pretty decent selection. There was about 6 or 7 earbuds that I was looking for, everywhere from, I saw some brands that were like $30, and then I saw like there's a Bose set of earbuds that are like $200, right? I don't want to spend that much, but I want to spend a little more than that. Where I netted out was on these suckers. Which in our video viewers can see me holding up the box. It is the NexiGo Air T2 wireless earbuds. And what struck me about these was that they claim that they are the smallest, thinnest earbuds and charging case. And I'm going to unbox it here, and I will show you that it is startlingly small. This
awesome.
Little case is like so thin and so tiny. I don't know how they did it. It fits in your, I'm not going to stand up and make everyone look at my crotch, but the little sub pocket inside your jeans pocket.
Yeah.
It fits
the
in
pocket
there.
within your pocket. That's awesome.
Yeah, it fits in the pocket within the pocket, which
it
is
passes
awesome.
Ron's pocket test, which he used to run with tablets back in the day.
Yes. Yeah. I used to put tablets in my back pocket to see if they fit in my back pocket. But yeah, so I picked these suckers up. So they've got a great little clamshell case that they sit into, and actually it's so small it's actually hard for my big fat fingers to deal with. But when the case is open, they're not charging. When the case closes, they are charging, right? And they're clearly marked right and left when you see each one comes in, and you can just pop them out of the case. And these are actually really, really small. But it's I'm horrible at my camera stuff, and Burke's moving around. So it's imagine a little earbud without the wire, and it's got just a little bit of like maybe a 1/2 inch of plastic coming down from the center of the earbud. And the entire area, so there's a silver circle right in the center of the earbud on the outside, and then there's black plastic. These come in black, white, and red. And there's a little bit of black plastic. The entire plastic and silver circle area is tappable. So
Oh, wow.
all your controls. So it's not like you need to hit that one silver target. It works for the entire area. And also both the right and the left side are tappable as well. So for me, the question was, like, how do they fit? How do they feel? And I'm going to put one in so you can our video watchers can see it. But they fit and feel great. They just feel like a regular earbud. As I moved away from the mic, so hang on, let me do
And
this.
those are not extending into your canal, not creating that like suction-y effect that I know that you hate. I don't mind it, but I know you hate it.
These are no different than my wired earbuds I use on the show. I use a pair of $9.99 Sony earbuds for my monitor ears. They actually look almost exactly the same if you look at the buds themselves. They're just a black circle. It goes right in. When I put the wireless earbud in my ear, I did get finding the right groove for it or spot to settle in. Took barely a second. It just popped right in, felt good. They do recommend tilting the little black piece coming down away from your head to get better kind of reception from the on the microphone and all that sort of stuff. But I tested it with phone calls. Phone calls sounded great. The person I was on the phone with said I sounded great. I didn't really do an A/B test to the Pixel Buds or not. It was just more like, hey, can you hear me? How do I sound? And that sort of thing. But the person on the phone couldn't tell I was using wireless earbuds, which is great. It's got it's within this in terms of the guts of it. It's got the Qualcomm QC3040 chipset and Bluetooth 5.2, which is great. It's also got 4 microphones in 2 in each of the earbuds with CVC 8.0 noise reduction technology. And they claim that it's got up to 28 hours of playtime. I have not tested it through all 28 hours. I think the lowest I ran the battery down was like 75%. So I haven't given it the full, let it run for a day without charging. But I'm able to quickly pair to my phone or to my tablet. What I really like about it is that once you take them out of the case, they immediately connect to the last device that they connected to if it's within range. But once you put them in the case and close that clamshell, it turns them off and severs any Bluetooth connection, which is actually something I ran into a problem with the Pixel earbuds all the time. Is that I guess because they were older or the way that you remember that case, that fabric case where they kind of sit in and you had to wrap the thing around it. It would be in the case and it would still connect to my phone and then drain the battery. Which is just a pain in the butt. Yeah.
I mean, they were also that was like almost 5 years ago. These things have come a long way in 5 years. Lots of advances. Yeah. And so they've also got neat little magnets. So when you put them back in the case, they just kind of snap into place so you can't screw it up, which is really cool. It's got IPX5 waterproof. And they claim one of the reasons why I got it, what I needed for both, phone calls and like listening to music, but also I go running, right? And now this is where the only point where the review turns a little bit of a ding. I went out, finally the weather got warm enough a couple of weekends ago after I got these, and I went out for a run. And I had mixed results while running. It sounded good, but what happened was that it was a particularly blustery, cold New York January winter day. I would get a gust of wind, and what I was listening to would stop. Like the wind was actually the touch control, the combination of me running and the wind coming at me was picking up a pause tap, which is not great.
Wow.
Phantom tap.
Exactly. So I only got to do one run on it, and it happened it was particularly windy when I was running downhill, but then I got out of the direction of the wind, and then I was running uphill in a more wooded area, and I didn't have that problem. So I want to get out for a couple more runs before I say, yes, this is unusable in a fitness area. But I went to the gym the other day. I brought him to the gym, 40 minutes on the treadmill, no problem, never paused, never ran into a thing. Obviously got sweaty, they never fell out, they never got dislodged. It was just they passed about 90% of the fitness test, I'll say. Nice. I do want to get out and run again to see how they feel, and see if that wind problem happens again. But beyond that, it was pretty good. So so I give them thumbs up. I like them so far. They're $70 on Amazon. I got them. I got, as you can see here by the video, I got the black ones. They're a half an inch wide. It's crazy. They're so small. So if you're looking for a non-in-ear option for earbuds and you're in the market, I would say give them a try. So, it does work with Google Assistant. It doesn't have all the neat bells and whistles like the Pixel Buds have, where Assistant is naturally in there. But I can get a notification. I can tap and play me back a message. I don't use any of that stuff anyway, so I was fine. So
yeah. I mean, the Pixel Buds are really. I'm trying to think of any other wireless earbuds that do that always listening thing that the Pixel Buds do. I think that's pretty much isolated to them for that particular feature. Yeah, which I find really, really useful, especially if you're going for like a run, then you just don't even have to interact at all. You're just like, hey, gee, skip forward 15 seconds or whatever, 2 minutes or whatever. Yep. It's really nice. But the NexiGo Air T2 wireless earbuds. Nice. Yeah. Right on. It
was nice.
I'm happy you found your new earbuds.
Yeah, first try out. I was at the price point. I was going to go get one of the super cheap ones, but I'm like, let me go like mid-range here to get ones that will be quality. And I'm not regretting the purchase at all yet. So
nice.
I love the case form factor. I just feel like most things are trying to go for that Apple Pod, Pixel Bud, the round little kind of pill case. I love that kind of thin, more elongated case, just because I feel like the way I carry my Pixel Buds around is always in my purse or my pocket, and they always kind of also there's a thing with women's pockets. I'm not going to go around about women's clothing, but women's pockets are very small. So if I kind of sit down, stuff kind of squeezes out my pocket. So hopefully if it's a little bit thinner and longer, it won't squeeze out. I've actually broken phones that way, where I'm in my car and I've got my phone in my pocket. I kind of just stand up and then the phone just squeezes out. And then I hear that you can tell when you've cracked your phone. It has that very distinct.
It's the worst.
You can, you can hear the glass. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's that sound. You know that sound. Exactly. And just anyway.
Yeah, it's the worst. I've had that before by putting my phone in my sweatshirt. The kangaroo pocket. Don't do that. Take my advice. It's a horrible place to put your phone. And yet I still do it. I still forget and put it in there, and then it falls out. So I haven't had any horrible accidents lately. But anyways, NexiGo Air T2 wireless earbuds. Thank you for the review, Ron.
Cool. My pleasure.
Lovely option there.
Options.
All right, this one's for you, because I know you have the experience with the foldables. So
yeah, I feel bad. Now that I'm here, I'm taking foldables a little bit away from Ron, but I
can share.
Yeah.
I can
There's
share.
plenty of foldables to go around.
There's a box full of foldables. Yeah. So
well, unfortunately, this is a foldable that we in the United States cannot get, but this is the Honor Magic 5. It is Honor is a brand formerly owned by Huawei. It was actually sold at the end of 2020 to a state-owned enterprise in Shenzhen province. But so basically, the brand Magic 5 is their flagship foldable. It's super comparable to the Galaxy Z Fold. It's got the same form factor of a front screen, which is a normal smartphone size, and then it opens up like a book into an inner screen that is, 7.9 inches. The front facing screen is 6.45, so a little bit slightly larger than the Fold 3. And it's kind of really easy to compare this phone to the Fold 3, because the form factor is basically, again, the same with the front screen and then an inner screen. Let's see what else we got. We got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 system on chip with 12 gigabytes of RAM and the option of 256 or 512 gigabytes of storage. And they claim that the inner screen is creaseless. And if we scroll from the Honor page, if we scroll down a bit, so the way that they're trying to get this creaseless screen is kind of interesting. They have what they call a teardrop hinge. And for those on the podcast only, if you think about maybe looking at a closed foldable from the bottom end, what happens is the screen doesn't kind of fold all the way shut like a piece of paper. The kind of where the middle of the screen kind of forms more just rolls, or kind of if you think about folding paper, but not actually doing the crease on the spine, just kind of exactly.
It, yeah.
So the screen
kind of rounds a little bit. Exactly.
Thank you, Jason. That's so much better than what I was talking about. But yeah, so the round kind of teardrop shape, I think they call it a teardrop hinge. So they claim that it's creaseless, which would be pretty fascinating because I know that's a problem that I unfortunately have with my Fold 3 that I can't unsee the crease only at certain angles. So
it's kind of there.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it's a little bit bigger and better than the Fold 3. It's got a slightly bigger battery, 4,750 milliamp battery with 66 watt wired charging, and it claims to be able to charge fully in 40 minutes. It's got a really nice triple 50 megapixel rear camera. And of course, since we got two screens, we got two front screens in a sense. We've got the outer front camera and the inner front camera, both at 42 megapixels, 4K HDR video capable, but no 8K yet. And unfortunately, there's no water resistance or wireless charging on this one. You do get the Honor Magic UI 6.0, which is basically their personalized flavor of Android based on Android 12, which includes Honor's very own digital assistant, Magic Live, which in the vein of other digital assistants is trying to kind of like bring up commonly used information and apps to you. And let's see, in terms of price, the 256 gigabyte version is 9,999 yen, which is about, we'll call it 1,600 US. Versus the $899, or let's call it $900. I always get confused when people do that 99 thing. $900 approximately for the Fold 3. And similarly, we've got the 512 gigabyte version at we'll call it 11,000 yen, which is about $1,700 USD versus the more or less flat 1,000 that the Fold 3 is. And again, this is only available in China. So it's pretty interesting. I think the idea of a creaseless design would be kind of money, but the price differential is really interesting at $1,500 and $1,700, especially with no water resistance or wireless charging. I don't know. What do y'all think? Is this intriguing at all, or just a nice curiosity of other foldables?
I mean, Honor's always a curiosity, so we always appreciate a good Honor device around here. Jason, we need to get Mateo on, because I feel like an Honor, Mateo's on the Honor beat. Right. Wynn needs to meet Mateo and hear his love for Honor devices, but still, I don't know. This is Macadial. Yep. But this is interesting, and Burke blew the joke. But I don't know. Yes, the Honor is always an oddity. That's for sure to me. I don't know, Jason. What do you think?
I think this looks like a pretty snazzy foldable. I think they're saying it's a little bit heavier than the Z Fold 3, but it's also a little bit thinner, and that's compelling to me because I feel like these foldables are really neat, but it's still like when you get a foldable and it's actually folded up, they feel like chonkers, right? Like they feel like bricks. I'm continuing to look forward to the day when we have a foldable, but it's still like there's some sort of advance in the technology that I'm not sure what that advance is, if it'll ever happen, that keeps things still relatively thin so you don't feel like you're putting a brick into your pocket, like the pocket test, like we were talking about just a few minutes ago. With foldables, that becomes even more complicated because they're just so huge. So, and Honor, I mean, it's been a long time since I've had an Honor that I've spent review time with, but the few opportunities that I've had, I've always been left very impressed. It's another one of those manufacturers that really makes really clean designs on their devices, and I appreciate that. It's just it's just a bummer that we don't really get them over here without having to import them, really.
I'm really curious to see how the hinge holds up, because I think the crease is one of those things. Like it's literally, very literally seeing the seams on, a device and how it's manufactured and how it actually uses in real life. So I would love to, and that's what I think I liked about some of the other things that we've seen, is just trying to experiment with design to see where the gaps are or where the less polished places are in user experience, and seeing whether novel designs can kind of mitigate some of those things like the crease. So I'm actually pretty excited. It looks good. I mean, I find it fascinating. It doesn't have water resistance, because I feel I know 10 years ago, just I'm really, dropping my phone like my shower bucket at school in college, and just being sad because I was a poor college student. And now it's like no big deal. Actually, I think we had a sriracha explosion incident like a week and a half ago in my house, and we just ran my phone under the tap for a minute, and it was fine. Don't ask, but it's just kind of interesting for such a high end phone to not have water resistance. But maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Well, and also, Samsung, when it first released their first crop of foldables, the Z Fold 1, and I can't remember if the Flip happened then too. I think it did. They did not have an IP rating, is my understanding. This was in the S10 era. And, so maybe that's kind of like the pathway for these companies making these devices, is that adding water resistance or dust resistance to a device that does all the folding mechanism-y stuff and everything is not really... It's not as easy as it is with a regular phone. Not to mention, these companies have been doing that with regular phones for years, so they've got that down. Foldables is a completely different beast. I'm just assuming that's probably
that's really fair. No, that's fair, because obviously, like, even from like if you go to the Honor Magic 5 site, it does like the hinge is like it looks to be mechanical, and that makes total sense. Where something that's highly mechanical and has moving parts would be a little more susceptible to water, so that makes total sense.
But so Samsung has figured it out, right? Like eventually they're figuring out systems to make it water resistant. Samsung totally obviously has a whole lot of support, and capital to make that happen. But they didn't do it on their first foldables, and so Honor's kind of in the same boat. Maybe Arnold will be there on the next iteration. I don't know.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Cool stuff. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty compelling. And then I will call this next block the Google hardware rumor stampede. It's a stampede of hardware rumors. First rumor is that Google is working on an AR, augmented reality headset. According to The Verge's sources, it's going to resemble ski goggles. Their words. Still a few years out, but I think what's interesting about this is it's being developed by the same team that developed Project Starline. And I don't know if either of you remember Starline from the last I/O. But this was the demonstration where someone's sitting in front of a screen and has a camera bar in front of them, and they're able to do the talking to basically a 3D model of the person on the other side of the camera. But the way it's done with, believe Lightfield technology, it makes it look like that person is actually there. I would love to see that in person, but I mean, that was definitely a big wow moment from my perspective anyways at Google I/O. And that same team is working on this AR headset. And in fact, both of the devices could launch together in 2024. So that's a little ways out. But if they did Starline, like, that gives me hope for an AR headset. What do you think?
It's pretty cool. I mean, I remember, now that it's described, I remember that whole project, and it did seem neat.
Yeah.
The thing is that I just feel like, I mean, Google's going to keep experimenting in this space, and they're going to try to do stuff, and whether it's telepresence or an AR headset. And I just worry that whatever they do is not going to get off the ground because people won't let Google Glass go away, Right?
No,
there's always the Google Glass ghost. Yeah,
there always is, and they always bring it up whenever you talk about like all the coverage of this AR headset and stuff like that. It's like Google's at it again and all this sort of stuff. But but they're one of how many companies that are experimenting with AR headsets. And again, this goes back to desperately as an industry want AR to work, and no one can figure out what the practical application is yet. And if it's through a headset or not, or through a phone or whatnot. But it is, but if they can figure it out and it's not a joke, then cool. Lord knows, everyone knows I'm well documented that I think it's cool. So
yeah, well,
I'm just kind of thinking, as we're going. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, go.
But as we're going like this second year of what's been going on. I mean, I'm kind of just thinking like I'm just having extra pangs because we didn't go home for Christmas again this year, and maybe that's kind of why they can push it from this angle. Is that, hey, like especially with that Starlight. Starline, the Starline technology, the kind of idea of of telepresence, but having it being more real and more satisfying than, because we're all kind of sick of Zoom calls by now.
Yeah.
And that maybe this could be the edge. It's kind of weird how things kind of pick up depending on what the world does and what things seem like they'd be good ideas, or maybe also like the desperation of not being able to kind of feel like you're close to your family or feel like you can't travel. Maybe that will kind of be like, okay, well, maybe a headset's not a bad idea. And I remember seeing the demo at Google I/O and thinking, that's really great, but are we going to have like little booths in our house?
Yeah, right.
Sit down and do calls with folks. But a headset seems kind of, especially now that we're all kind of used to having technology everywhere, like in our pockets, in our purses, if they don't squeeze out of our pockets, that, maybe the headset could be the way to go. I mean, I actually heard someone not understand what I think I was like talking to a relative over the holidays over a call, and they didn't quite know what Google Glass was. So maybe as we get further away too, maybe the jokes will stop.
It's fading.
I don't know.
It's fading like a ghost.
But I don't know. We still remember. So who knows?
They're gonna bring it up every opportunity. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The next two are quick hits. Pixel 6a could launch in May. Of course, this last year the 5a was really delayed. Remember, so this would be putting it back on track, timing it more with around the time frame that Google I/O happens. We'll have Google's own system on chip, same one that's in the 6a, same Tensor chip, but no headphone jack. So if you're holding on to that headphone jack, this would be the sea change in now the A series phones. So that's coming up in May. Yeah, some of you are going to care about that. Juan Bagnell is going to care about that. But and then a low-end Chromecast with Google TV supposedly in the works. It would be limited to HD and 60 frames per second, so no 4K support. Less than the $49.99 model that's currently available. So you've got the $50. If we think about this, the $50 Google TV Chromecast that's currently available, and then currently there is the 3-year-old Chromecast that still sells for around $30. So maybe this is like the replacement for that, but now you get it with Google TV and a remote, or maybe not with a remote. I don't know what that'll be. So we'll see about that. And then finally, and I'm curious about this one, the Pixel Notepad, aka the foldable Pixel. We're starting to hear more about this again.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah. Could it be real? And could it be happening sometime this year? I don't know. But 9 to 5 Google says the price for this is going to be somewhere in the $1,400 price range. That's a $500 premium over the price of the Pixel 6 Pro right now, which kind of falls in line with what Samsung does, with their S series device and the price gap between that and their foldables. So there you go. I don't know if it's going to be called the Pixel Notepad. I don't know if that's an actual name for it, but I'm curious. To see what comes up with.
I'm very, very curious. I can't wait to see. And then does this continue to move forward the legitimacy of foldables in the marketplace, right? Like, does Google saying like, yes, it's real, it's not a novelty, it's not an oddity, it's something that we believe in and get behind, does that bolster what Samsung has done? Does that get the the carriers and the marketplaces to push them harder on customers? Like the domino effect that could happen here, that's what I'm waiting for. So,
yeah, does Google have what it takes to drive that kind of excitement around something like this? I'm not so.
And also,
let's
let's keep in mind, and I know a segment of our audience is going to love it when I say this. Google gets to say they did it first when Apple eventually launches the iPhone foldable.
Maybe not first, but before them at least. Yeah.
Right, before them. Yeah, right. No, but they between the two of them, they could say they did
got
it.
There
like,
before you did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what, I'm curious to see what Google does on that front, and it'll just be nice at some point to be able to close that chapter and be like, okay, we've been hearing about this for literally years now. It's a thing. Maybe it'll never be a thing. It's kind of like the Pixel Watch. We're still hearing bits and dribbles about that, but still nothing.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
This could be the year. Yeah. All right. Coming up next, well, of course, we've got some app news. That's up next. Oh, yeah. When do you care about Android games on PC? Do you use PC or do you use Mac?
I use both. I will game on anything that I can get my hands on. I mobile game. I will play games on my Mac if I have to. Thank you, Steam. I've played like Mac only games. I still have a PC, and mobile gaming is one of my bad habits. Good habits, bad habits. So I'm actually pretty excited. I'm curious. I'm curious for Google Play games on Windows. So at the 2021 Game Awards, one of Google's announcements was that they would be bringing a PC application that allows you to download and play Android games on your PC. Now, this would be an application that's a standalone application that runs on your PC, and it would only be serving games, not apps. But there's some interesting things. You'd basically be allowed to use mouse and keyboard input. It would include eventually, we don't know for sure yet, if it's available yet, but it would have cross-platform achievements and syncing, which is really awesome as someone who really likes their achievements, and also obviously access to Google Play points. Right now, there is a beta, but the beta is only open to Taiwan, South Korea, and Hong Kong. And there are some minimum requirements, basically a decent gaming computer running at least Windows 10. In fact, they kind of specify a gaming class GPU.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of odd. Yeah, which is kind of odd because mobile games are generally run, fairly well on most phones. I mean, that's an oversimplification, but I mean, phones are constrained devices. And It's kind of interesting that they asked for a gaming class GPU, which I think is super, super interesting and weird. But yeah, I
didn't understand that. I was like, well, wait a minute. So what exactly is going on here? Is this emulation? Is that why? But I don't think that it is.
And the other requirements are kind of seem low. Like it requires 8 gigs of RAM, which I mean that definitely sounds reasonable for a phone, but like a PC. Like if you have a gaming GPU, you probably have more than 8 gigabytes.
More than 8 gigs of RAM.
You don't have more gigabits, but you definitely have more than 8 gigabytes of RAM, and you probably have something around. I mean, like most of us have multi-core CPUs now. It's really interesting, but again, because the beta is only open in Taiwan, South Korea, or Hong Kong, there are only certain games that are kind of part of the beta right now. But unsurprisingly, a lot of these games that are part of the beta are ones that are incredibly popular both in China and Korea. Like if you're like a Miracle Sword player or a Cookie Run player, I believe those are part of the beta, as well as some of the super successful Chinese games like Mobile Legends Bang Bang, or MLBB, I believe as the fans call it, as well as Idle Heroes. If you're a Gardenscapes player like me, or I used to be, you will also be happy that's part of the beta. But yeah, I'm looking
up Gardenscapes right now.
Don't look at my shame, Jason. Don't look at my shame, Jason.
I'm really curious.
Yeah, it's just it's just a really nice little like puzzler kind of game in the vein of like Candy Crusher stuff. But there's also like this kind of backstory and like this garden that you're improving by playing this. Hey, stop it. But anyway, they're looking to open the beta to more regions, but focusing on, again, Taiwan, South Korea, and Hong Kong for now. For sure in 2022 and beyond, they'll be opening the beta, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I actually am pretty excited about this. It is, I do find the requirements a little bit weird because, again, these are games that have already been written for, optimized for, and run presumably well on mobile. And so you'd think that you wouldn't need a gaming class GPU for running it on Windows. But I think this makes a lot of sense. For example, and the kind of the regions that they've opened this beta to make sense to me. I mean, I'm kind of bummed out that I can't get a hold of it just to see what it's like. But for example, in South Korea has a huge gaming culture, and I think, a huge mobile culture. And even though we're kind of in, 2022, where most super developed nations have, fairly easy access to good PCs and also good connections, that the internet cafe, the PC bong, is still kind of a big deal and still kind of a big part of culture. So kind of combining, a love for mobile, a highly mobile culture, with still kind of being able to go to a place and hang out and play games on PC kind of makes sense. Maybe that's why my thing is like why they might have kind of like focused on these regions first. So it'll be interesting to see both how the games play, like how the experience is, whether people actually care about going to PC to play these games. But some of these games are actually, they're like multiplayer online mobile. I know MOBA, they're online battle arenas and maybe things that do take up a lot of kind of intense processing power. So maybe they would benefit from both the more gaming class DPUs again, and also mouse and keyboard input. So I'm actually pretty interested and excited to see where this goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I don't have a Windows PC, so it wouldn't affect me directly. But I'm curious to see what the demand for this actually is, or if this is just kind of another checkbox. Like, yeah, well, you can now, and not many people are going to be, but it's a checkbox on a list.
And it's another thing. It's another thing that you like as they talk to some of their like major developers, or like who knows what kind of corporate or strategic alliance this kind of checks the box for, right? They say, look, we're doing it. We're experimenting. See, that sort of thing. So yeah, who knows? Yeah. It's cool. I think it's cool. I don't have a Windows box, but yeah, sure. Right on.
Yeah, right on. I think this is pretty cool, primarily because I have been super disappointed with Google's, switch from Google Play Music. Fans of this show know plenty that we have been disappointed with it. But from the transition from Google Play Music to YouTube Music, one of the casualties was the ease of use for like kids. To play music with YouTube Music. Basically, if you have if you have like a Family Link account, and Family Link is kind of Android and Google's platform for like family controls over children's devices and stuff. We use it for our kids. They have it on their tablets. And in the transition from Google Play Music over to YouTube Music, there was no support built into it. So therefore, if my kids want to play music, want to play Ariana Grande song, which they want to do, if I have voice match set up on my speakers, it used to be that it would recognize their voice and there would be controls and I could say, yes, you can play all music, but don't play the music that has these words in it or whatever. And it would still work. Well, with YouTube Music, that isn't possible. And now it looks like they're actually broadening support. So I'm still unclear whether this is actually going to work with home devices, but they've made a change with something that I don't know how I missed this, but apparently this launched last year called Supervised Experiences. And last year it launched with YouTube. So if you have Family Link and you have a kid with a tablet and you don't want them to have access to full YouTube, they made YouTube Kids. And so that was integrated into Family Link. Everything's fine. Well, at a certain point, they're old enough, and we're totally there with our older daughter. She turns 12 like in a matter of days. And we're kind of at this point to where YouTube Kids really doesn't have the content that is perfect for her. We want to kind of open it up a little bit, but weren't really sure how to do that. Apparently, the Supervised Experiences is like an added feature in Family Link that allows you to open up YouTube a little bit further. So it's not just locked into YouTube Kids. It opens it up further. And yes, you're taking chances, right? Some of it's human curation, some of it's AI, but ultimately it allows her to have more access, but not full access to YouTube on her tablet. Well, now they're adding that feature for YouTube Music. So that Supervised Experiences will also give kids access to music based on the controls that I as a parent set up. And so, hey, we made it eventually. It took forever, but we got there. And I'm curious to play around with this once it rolls out in the next few weeks.
It's fascinating because I have two thoughts coming out of that, and this now welcome to like Parents Corner and all about Android. First off, I would like this because my YouTube Music is completely ruined. I open it up now and it's just suggesting Encanto, and then Frozen and all this sort of stuff.
Amen.
I mean, literally, we've listened to so much Encanto that I saw a new screen on the home screen of YouTube Music that I've never seen before, where it completely reskins the whole thing based on a popular album, which I guess Encanto, like, obviously it's a huge hit and everybody's enjoying it and all that sort of stuff. And I'm somewhat late to the game and the kids are listening to the songs nonstop. But usually when I open up YouTube Music, it would, it give me, I knew what to expect. I saw the same screen a lot. And then now I just opened it up now. Now I get this now trending Encanto screen which I've never seen before, where like the whole top of the screen has got a screenshot from the movie, and it's like all stuff that have to do with it, because I never listen to anything that's trending, right? Which I think is very, very funny. So it would be nice to be able to segregate their listening from my listening and all that sort of stuff. But to your point about YouTube, Jason, it's funny because I've had having 2 3-year-olds, the YouTube app on the Google TV, Chromecast has been a nightmare, because like trying to get them to stop watching TV, like we're trying to like go to bed, like time to turn the TV off, and YouTube just keeps serving new videos. And even I turned off the setting to autoplay the next video. So when a video ends, it ends suggesting the next video, and you have to press the button to start playing. But not only does it have that suggestion, but it's got a row of 5 recommended videos plus 5 watch it agains, and I just don't want the kids to see anything, right? So I was like, oh, let me look at the YouTube Kids app, because this is for kids, it's supposed to be whatever. And I know a lot about the YouTube Kids app from working with YouTube and working with Google, and a lot of the COPA stuff, and like my day job requires me to I do a lot of family entertainment, stuff like that. So knowing those legal rules and things like that. So I was familiar with the YouTube Kids app in terms of its like gating of content and shutting off comments and all this sort of stuff. But sure enough, in the YouTube Kids app for the Google TV, same damn thing. You finish a video, recommends 5 more videos. There's no way to turn that off. And I understand that is in direct conflict with Google and YouTube's entire business model, right? Their whole idea is to promote you to keep watching videos, but I would like some level of control to, like, after the 3rd video, stop giving me recommendations, because I'm trying to control the kid's screen time. So it's fascinating that on one hand, they're doing stuff to give you controls to help you with the kids, but not when it gets in the way of their business model. So I don't know. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, not surprising at all. Yeah, this is just the saga that keeps on going. The saga of YouTube Music and YouTube and kids. But little baby steps, no pun intended. All right.
I like it.
Yeah. Ron, you got the last one.
I do. So if you're one of those folks who've been using the G Suite Legacy Free Edition of Google Workspace, I'm one of them. I know I have at least one domain that's one of those. I think a couple of mine are. Really? Unfortunately, that gravy train's coming to an end. Most of these free accounts have existed since 2012. I did that. Every domain I owned, I went and I registered just to get it for free, right?
Yep.
So basically, we've gotten 10 extra years of free account access. Now Google is transitioning all remaining users to an upgraded Google Workspace paid subscription based on usage. And those plans start at the low price of $6 a month up to $18 a month. And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
It's a massive, massive service that they deserve to get paid for. And they've given it away to, for free for so long. I have, and $6 a month for email, Drive, all that sort of stuff. If you're using it for your own personal domain or something like that, it gets pricey when you have a business and you've got a lot of users and scales up and things like that. But for a personal, $6 a month is, again, that's some sort of concoction at Starbucks that people get that I don't drink. So
yeah. So then both you and Win have benefited from the last 10 years of free accounts. Will you be paying for this going forward? Are these on accounts that you don't use?
I'll pay for it. I don't want to lose it. Yeah. So
yeah, I'll pay for it. Like this is from my days of like being a freelancer, which I'm not anymore, but I don't want to lose it as well. So, I'm with you, Ron. I get it. Like keeping these accounts around was a nicety. We got 10 years. I'm sure that whoever
10 years, that's a solid amount of time.
It is. Yeah. And it's kind of, I guess they kind of told us 10 years ago that we kind of needed to figure things out. And 10 years is fair. And I kind of being kind of like part of company, part of being projects and companies that have this kind of payment model. I get it. Please, everyone, just get on board the new thing. And so we don't have to keep, making exceptions for folks. So I get it. I'll pay for it. I don't have a problem with paying for it. It's just more like,
I didn't mean to put either of you on the spot, by the way. I was just kind of curious.
Thanks,
10 years is a long time. That's a long time. When you put it that way, it's kind of a good gift that you got from Google for the last 10 years. So I think it makes sense. Can't complain. All right, coming up next, we've got some of your emails, your feedback. That's up next. AAA at twit.tv, 347-SHOW-AAA if you want to leave us a voicemail. And looks like, Wynn, you have the first email.
I do. All right. Let's see. Should have brought my glasses. Okay. Well, I bought my Xperia 5 Mark II last year at launch. I opted to buy directly from Sony with lots of free add-ons. I was very sad the 5 series did not get purple. One Mark Purple 3 is in purple this year. I love the 5. I wanted a smaller phone that's easy to use one-handed. I love watching movies and rarely watch on my phone unless I'm at work on lunch. The 21:9 aspect ratio is great for video content. Apps like HBO Max even fill the screen with 235:1 movies. The Xperia 5 was targeted at gamers. It was the official Call of Duty mobile game phone with a 120 hertz screen. Marvel Future Revolution plays great on it, filling the screen and at a high frame rate. Ooh. When the time comes, I'll get another Xperia, maybe the 1 series, since it's available in purple, my favorite color. Robert from Alaska. Robert, I am so with you. I actually, a very good friend of mine who is one of the best QA testers I know and is now one of the best devs I know, always loved the Xperia. And I actually took a look at it. This 21:9 form factor is actually really cool for games because it kind of leaves room for your hands and then plenty of content in the middle. And purple is my favorite color too. So I'm right there with you, Robert. I looked at it. I was enchanted by the Xperia.
It's nothing to do with the Xperia, but here's the thing about purple and a color theory I have. So my son's favorite color is purple. And when you mentioned your favorite color is purple, and I have another friend whose favorite color is purple, I find that me and my wife were talking about this. People who are really passionate about their favorite color, it's always purple.
Yes.
You never really hear somebody who's like, oh, I'm so passionate for orange. Like for some reason, like people who are really into a specific color, it's always purple. It's fascinating. So it's kind of like how some people can taste cilantro and some people can't.
Right. Some people say it tastes like soap.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually have purple headphones. My headphones are the Audio Technica. And I always never forget MH blah, 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 50Xs, and they were in purple and I had to get them.
That's a nice color purple too. It's kind of a darkish. Yeah. You almost miss it if you aren't looking at the right angle.
It is. So no one knows that I bought these twice. One, because they were awesome headphones. And then when they saw the purple, I was like, I don't care if I don't need another pair of headphones. They're purple. I'm sorry. So people can't see my capitalist shame of like buying headphones I didn't need. Anyway.
We're pointing out your headphones. We're pointing out that game. What was it? Gardenscapes, which I'm going to install on my phone and check out myself.
It's a really relaxing time, Jason. It's really good. Just don't get into games like Idle Heroes or AFK Arena. That will destroy your life because Gardenscapes can make you spend money too. But those other kind of games, which are part of the beta, crap. Yes. Anyway, that's okay. Like the folks are like getting to know me and to know my vices as well as other things about me. You're getting a decision now to let me be hosting the show.
It's part of the deal. Yep. Yeah, indeed. I know. I ended up. Okay, I'll go ahead and share my shame with you just to make you feel less shameful. What is this game even called? I was on Twitter and so this is totally shameful. Kingdom Guard, one of those random tower defense games, and I totally did it because
I love a good tower defense.
And I did it because I was on Twitter and saw a Twitter ad for this thing, and it looked really satisfying. Like there was something about how the teams came on the screen, and then they ate the other team and got bigger, and then that team, and I was like, wow, that looks really satisfying. Sure, I'll download that. And now 3 days of playing it on my trip, and I realized after a certain point, I was like, I'm totally just grinding right now, and it's not even fun. I'm doing it because I'm bored. It totally got sucked in, so I'm probably gonna uninstall it. But yeah, sometimes it just happens. Sometimes we get sucked into these shameful games.
What was the game called again? Just curious.
Kingdom Guard.
Kingdom Guard.
I also love a good tower defense, so here we go.
I will say.
I don't know that it's necessarily a great tower defense game. Like I said, after a couple of days, I was like, all right, I think I'm done having fun with this. I'm just doing it because I feel like I need to.
I do long for a good tower defense. I remember playing Warcraft 3 tower defenses
Yeah.
Like back in the day, like OG tower defense, and just like I want that experience again. Oh man. So
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try this. Look for tower. I'm just gonna
tell me how quickly you burn out on this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, look at it, so cute.
But you know what? But here's what bugs me is the ad that I saw on Twitter that I thought was so satisfying. Like I haven't even gotten there yet. Like the game, it's almost like the game that I'm playing is completely different than the game that was in the ad. Like that's what I see is something along those lines. But what I saw on Twitter,
it's
like
called
it was
advertising, man. Come on.
I know, but
it's fake.
But then it's false advertising.
It is absolutely. A lot of apps do it.
Was it a different game?
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a flash game, right? Like you see the ad, and it's like a really cool flash game, or it almost had almost like a different style. That happened to me too. I saw it, and it looked like a really good like flash art style 2D rendered game. And then I downloaded the app, and it was completely different. I think the mini game came up like once or twice, and I was like, I just got got. I got totally. But yeah, I think it's a really common thing, right, Brooke? Like it's like a thing. Like a lot of companies.
To me, totally.
It has. Oh.
Especially like it depends where you see the ads too. Like I see a lot of in-game ads that are just blatantly false. Like the gameplay is just completely rendered. Like you'll never see it in the game.
You'll never see it. It's like they're demonstrating a theory about the game, or they're demonstrating kind of something like I don't know how to phrase that.
It's called a lie. Yeah,
it's like when they show you a cutscene. It's like when they show you a cutscene. And then they make you think it's like the gameplay. And so the cutscene's beautiful. It looks like a freaking movie or something. And then you actually play the game and it's like some super, like you see all the polygons. It like barely renders. It's like, okay. Well, this is the bet I made now.
Yeah, like you said, I just got. Yeah, that's exactly it.
They're good.
Anyways. This is not to get you to install Kingdom Guard, but heck, if you want to install it and tell me what I'm missing, AAA@twit.tv, let us know.
I'm literally, you're sending me down a rabbit hole. I'm like Googling best Android tower defense. Like I'm trying to find I want to do something.
Kingdom Rush. Yeah. Kingdom Rush is great.
Kingdom Rush.
Kingdom Rush
I bet
is a
you
different
Kingdom
one.
Guard is like, Kingdom Rush did well. Let's do a Kingdom game.
This is what annoys me. Like I just did a search and there's a game called Defenders 2 and there's a blog and it says Defenders 2 is what happens when you mix a tower defense game and a card game together. Like, no, I don't want that. Like, stop.
A little something for everyone. There's someone out there looking for those. All right. Samuel wrote in to AAA@twit.tv and says, I was listening to yesterday's episode. This would be last week's episode, I believe, this morning. And I heard that some of you are experiencing battery drain on your Pixel 6 devices. I have a Pixel 6 Pro and had the same issue a while back. I figured out that it really is the 5G modem that was causing all the issues. After doing some speed tests, I found out that here in Montreal on 5G, I was getting lower speeds than on 4G. I then disabled 5G in the settings, and I'm happy to report that for the past couple of months, I haven't had any battery or connectivity issues, says Samuel. Were you guys talking about this on the show last week?
We did, yeah. It came up again, and this is pretty. This is just confirming what we've seen with the Pixel 6 Pro and the Pixel 6. I was talking about how I never leave the house. Telling Patrick and Flo how I never leave the house, and so my battery life is fine. And then I left the house, and then my battery drained crazy. It's because of the 5G modem. It's for something in the Pixel 6 and this Pixel 6 Pro, and how it's managing the battery management with the 5G modem that's causing major battery drain. And I'm hoping that they fix it with future updates. Luckily, I'm not out in 5G that often, so it's not that big of an issue. But if you are out in the world and you're off of Wi-Fi for extended period of time and you have the Pixel 6 Pro or Pixel 6, I would strongly recommend, like Samuel says here, to turn off 5G, just because you're going to get decent speeds on 4G, and like he said here, he's getting faster speeds on 4G than 5G. It goes into the larger 5G is a myth kind of argument, which I don't want to get into, but still, So,
disappointing when your solution to get a normal operating phone is to disable one of the key features of the phone,
right? It's odd.
But I agree. So more often than not, when I'm showing 5G, my speeds are not any more than they are on 4G. And that's just the state of 5G right now, right? Like maybe that'll improve over time, but
who knows?
Seems to be the case. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's getting to be the end of the email section, which means it's that time. It's time for the Burke. I'm not going to say it until he presses it. Crash and burn, Burke, as we try to do the email.
I'm pressing it, I swear.
Oh,
All right.
Well,
we'll pretend that we had the fanfare. Burke,
Yeah.
Burke, can you do a little beatbox horns for us? Or?
not to,
Wow.
there we go.
Sorry, I asked for that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Excuse me.
Our email of the week this week comes from Nick G, who writes and says, "Hey gang, and welcome Win. It's great to have you. A quick comment on Nearby Share. I used to use an app to do this, but it was always flaky and quickly got annoying. Lately, I've been using Tailscale, heard about it on Security Now, to create a VPN between my devices. Select the file, share it via Tailscale, and zip. It pops up on your PC, or desktop, or in the downloads of your phone. It's perfect, works from anywhere in the world, and can send to any device or to any platform that you have added to your personal network. Definitely better than emailing files to yourself with no size limits. It's been very helpful in my case. Cheers from negative 30 degrees Celsius, Northern Ontario. And my God, I'm sorry. I was just worried that it was 27 degrees Fahrenheit in New York tomorrow.
Celsius.
Yeah, jeez, that's insane. Northern Ontario, come south, Nick, come south. But hey, awesome tip from that you got from Security Now. I love keeping it in the family. But yeah, this is good if you're looking for a Nearby Share-esque type functionality. Check out Tailscale. So
Yeah, and if it came up on Security Now, that's a
There we go.
good recommendation.
There it is.
There we go.
And thank you,
We
Nick.
got there. Yeah. Thank you for that recommendation, Nick. Bringing that to our attention. And congratulations, as always. We have reached the end of this episode of All About Android. Always a lot of fun. And so, yeah, this is kind of the part of the show where we talk about other things we have going on. What do you want to leave people with? Do you have anything you want people to know?
Yeah, I'm an app Android developer most days, and I do talk about Android stuff occasionally. Also out on the internet, on the YouTubes, giving some talks soon. And you can find all the information about any upcoming talks or content I have on my site, randomlytyping.com.
Right on, randomlytyping.com. Thank you, Ann. And what about you, Ron?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter at RonXO or on Instagram at RonXO. And if you're into pinball, check out Scorbit. It's in the Google Play Store Android app to keep track of your pinball scores and do other cool functionality. Go to scorbit.io, check it all out. Working on cool stuff. Yay, pinball, fun times. So
Yay, pinball, fun times.
Yay, pinball.
Thank you, Ron. Also, big thank you to Burke for finally finding the email of the week button. You found the button, just getting it to play. I'm not sure what you did, but we heard it, and we appreciate all your hard work behind the scenes. Also appreciate you, Victor. What is that? What's new in Stream Deck? Oh, did this cause a problem or something?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Well, then, thanks a lot, Stream Deck, and whatever's new in it. There we go.
Making up for lost time. I like it.
Exactly. Also, big thanks to Victor behind the scenes for editing the show and publishing it and getting it into your feeds. Without Victor, you wouldn't be listening or watching. So, hooray for Victor. You can find me on Twitter at Jason Howell, doing Tech News Weekly with Micah Sargent every Thursday at twit.tv/TNW. Don't forget, we have Club Twit as an option for you. If you don't want to listen to the ads in your podcasts, or in our podcast, rather, you can join Club Twit. twit.tv/clubtwit. That's our ad-free subscription tier. No ads in the shows. An exclusive Twit Plus podcast feed with lots of extra content, including things like today after the show, we're doing kind of like an Ask Me Anything 30-minute hangout, three of us with our Discord and with IRC, and then we're going to publish that to the Twit Plus podcast feed. So you get that if you were a Twit Plus, a Club Twit member, and you also get members only access to that Discord that I told you about. So twit.tv/clubtwit. That's it for this week's episode. We always appreciate you. Thank you. Every Tuesday evening is when we do this show, so it publishes later in the evening, early in the morning, the following day, depending on where you're at twit.tv/AAA. So subscribe, and then you don't have to do all the mental gymnastics to try and figure out when it's going to appear there. It'll appear for you and be ready for you the next day. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time on another episode of All About Android. Bye, everybody.
Hooray.
Hey, you don't have to wait till the weekend to get the tech news you need. Join Jason Howell and myself, Micah Sargent, for Tech News Weekly, where we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news.